know, I love my opening song, my intro. Thank you, John Kelly. I can never say thank you enough. I love, love, love my intro song. Thank you again. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 162nd episode of the AfricanMusicLaw.com show. I'm your host, Miss Uruak. And just briefly, my background is that of a fashion entertainment lawyer, but I'm also the publisher and producer of the AfricanMusicLaw.com website and also, of course, the show. I'm excited about my guest today, but before I introduce her, let me tell you about what this brand stands for, who we are, what we do, where to find us, etc., etc. So who are we? We are all about empowering the African artist across the entire African continent and in the diaspora as well, just wherever they may be found. And how do we accomplish that? Several methods. One of the key ones that we do is invite experts, industry folks to come in and share their knowledge, their insights, their institutional knowledge, among other things, to help propel the African entertainment industry, our artists particularly, and just the entire ecosystem. In addition, of course, you'll have me periodically give legal commentary and analysis and some of the major news that is hitting, the global headlines as well as intersecting with the law. Finally, also, of course, we cover just feature stories, long form and short form as well on topics that are relevant to our audience. So that's who we are and what we do. Now, where can you find us? Go to africanmusiclaw.com to subscribe directly to our newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter. It's, of course, exclusive to our subscribers. In addition, if you want to, you can also certainly on the site or just directly on the podcast streaming platforms, major streaming platforms, subscribe directly with respect to Apple, Spotify, Google Play, all of the major streaming platforms. You can find us, subscribe there as well. So there's several ways you can reach us. And of course, the final way is social media platforms. You're probably watching this maybe on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Either way, let me know where you're watching. And you can subscribe in that manner to our fan pages to know what is going on. But we really want you to sign up for our newsletter because that way you always stay connected to us. So again, super excited to have you here joining us. Several things to know. In terms of just slight housekeeping, leave your comments directly and we may be able to read them to our guests. If you have any comments you want to share or questions you may have, please feel free to do so. So I'm ready to introduce our guest for today. Her name is Awin Tavakoli. She is a phenomenal lawyer, a business advisor, an international speaker, and comes from a background of mathematics, among others, and social justice from a legal route. And she's very, very instrumental and has been with leading the NFT community, particularly on Clubhouse. And so I want to hear so much more about her, especially with her also having her own drop that she recently did. And the story behind that drop fascinates me so much. So everyone, welcome the one and only Awin Tavakoli. Woohoo! Yay! Welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to have you. How are you?
Thank you, Miss Uruak. Amazing to be here with you. It's a great pleasure to share the space with you and your amazing community.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, I've been so fascinated by you, of course, and enjoy the rooms that you hold on social media, particularly Clubhouse. And I just wanted to make sure my audience and my community got a chance to meet such a wonderful, remarkable woman. And it's also particularly delightful to me that you are also a member of the legal profession as a fellow lawyer. So here's what I'd like to do. Just start from the beginning of who you are. And the way I want to do that is just to trace your background in terms of where you were born and your upbringing before we sort of walk our way through to where you are right now. So who is Awin Tavakoli? How would you describe yourself?
Well, I would describe myself as the embodiment of diversity and adversity at the same time. Born as a Kurd in the capital city of Iran, Tehran, I felt already as a minority in my own hometown. I mean, I grew up that way as well. And then I was born into a kind of, let's say, the years or the prior years to the Islamic Revolution of Iran. And then I was growing up during the 8 years brutal, bloody war between Iran and Iraq. So, I mean, that was not a really the ideal childhood that parents wish for their children as well. But why am I saying this right at the beginning? Because that is what have ultimately made me. So as someone who have gone through war, but it's making peace and seeking peace now, also professionally and personally, these has been the things that truly impacted my life, both in private and professional aspects. With my colorful background, as you just mentioned a few things, I mean, from mathematics to professional athlete to real estate agent for diplomats and business owners in my hometown, as a banker in private banking, in financial crime compliance, as researcher, as teacher, speaker, coach, lawyer. I mean, when people sometimes telling me, oh,
I
you
don't feel
do
as
so
bad
many,
when people, yeah, I don't feel
yeah,
as
when a
bad
lot of
hearing you say
people
that.
tell me, oh, you do so many things, how is that? I said, don't underestimate me. Law is just a fraction of my life and my personality, so it's just one part of my career. But everything else, this has been making me, let's say, this has been making me as the bundle, which is called Awin. You know, it has so many sides and so many facets, but then one part of it happens to be practicing law, and especially the way I started also to create my own practice, where a lot of people called me the disruptive lawyer, because I decided to really observe whatever all other lawyers are doing and with which other people are not really happy. So I put them all in a package and I just redefined them and I just repackaged them and I created my own package and I looked again, what are they not doing? And I decided to fill the market gap with those things that they're not doing. So let's say the whole practice with me, also professionally and personally, it's like this reverse side of everything else, but of course putting some thoughts and also some strategies behind it, so that at the end of the day it works as well, and not just to create something like a kind of disorder, but how to say, bouncing back from one existing order to my own order. So
Wow.
yeah, there's a
Wow.
transition always, which is called chaos and disorder, but I think that is where we can then afterwards create proper order, but the order that we
Yeah.
have created,
Yeah.
not
You
something
know,
like
that's a very, very important conversation you're having. And I want to just stop and really, really zoom in on that, especially for the professionals that are watching, right? Because for me, I'm deeply passionate about the law. That's why even when in my extracurricular activities, I'm still doing law related ventures. But as you correctly point out, law is one thing we do, right? And the way I see it is it's a tool, a very powerful tool at that, where you can then take that tool and be dropped in all kinds of industries across sectors. And you're still able to know what to do with it and to powerfully show up to make impact. And that's what I hear you saying. Whereas I think minds that don't get that concept think, oh, you're being confused all over, or you need to be, fit into one category. And it's simply not the case. If you fully know what you're called to do and you're clear about it, then that is your ammunition. That's your tool. But it doesn't stop there because there's so much more to do. And the other thing I always say, and then I want to go back to that background history you just shared with us about growing up in Iran and specifically Tehran, the big city, right, that you grew up in. Yeah. But before we go back to that, the other thing I always say as well is it intrigues me that the people that we all look up to or consider idols, if you will, if you see mainstream, are individuals who have taken certain talents and diversify with diverse streams of incomes and have their hands in so many buckets. So I find it interesting that we can idolize such people on such macro level, but expect the average person to just find one thing, ignore all of their other talents, and stick with just that one thing forever and ever and ever and ever. Otherwise, they're confused about what they want. It doesn't quite correlate logically to me. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. Can you just elaborate more on that? Because I think it's so important that other professionals hear that when they hear you being a lawyer, business advisor, all this other things you've done in the real estate space, in this space, in that space, that it's not, oh, Awin doesn't know what she's doing. It's actually a woman who has clarity on her purpose and where she's headed.
This is so good. I mean, this is such a critical point and also such an important point, because I personally have been rejected for like over 100 times as I started like applying for internships or for jobs after my legal studies in Switzerland. And the reason was almost always that, oh my God, your resume is so diverse. This just cannot be. That cannot be. You've been like a professional athlete, you've been real estate agent, you've been banker, you've been a mathematician and statistic expert, you've been photo model, whatever. So, and now what is that? So are you sure that you want to practice law? So that has been creating often uncertainties for the counterparts instead of me being uncertain. But then I understood at the end, I mean, afterwards, during those times, yes, I was also sometimes pretty insecure or maybe even offended. And sometimes I was feeling, oh my God, maybe I have really done something wrong in my life, or maybe I'm really a chaotic, confused person. But as time passed by, and I could really leverage all of those things and turn those things that were like told to me that they are adversities and problems and confusion, after I could turn them to my advantage, I mean, turning adversities to advantage, then I understood, oh my God, actually, you guys were too small to look at those kind of things. I'm sorry for you. And actually, I'm very happy that it didn't work out with those kind of collaborations or those kind of, interviews and applications. And nowadays, as I have started really to deep dive into my past, into my abilities, into my skills and talents, etc., then instead of seeing confusion, I have been seeing a pool of talents and capabilities. So that was no longer confusion, but capabilities. And I saw, now when I want to launch my own business, now when I want to decide to offer my own services, I see how much added value I can offer to my potential clients in comparison to so-called competition.
Yeah.
Because
especially in a post-pandemic world.
Correct.
Yeah.
Post-pandemic, also during the pandemic, and actually I would say even before that, but during the pandemic, it suddenly shined through, and people were thinking, oh my God, how could you somehow calculate XYZ risks? How could you plan for us like this strategies also for our legal contracts or for our business strategies, etc. And I was like disclosing, I was telling them, look, I've been using time series, mathematical formulas, statistical formulas, etc., to calculate the risks and also the chances of your success or the chances of the failure. And for many of those clients who were extremely thankful and grateful, that I'm very happy for, that they could really survive the times of crisis because of some really rock solid contracts that I could draft and negotiate for them prior to times of pandemics. They were like amazed. They said, honestly, we never thought that a lawyer with mathematics and statistic background can bring suddenly such a crazy added value while drafting or negotiating contracts. Or maybe from my background also as a professional athlete, and also having dealt with the toughest coaches in the world, that made me also one of the most, let's say, badass or toughest coaches for business owners or also for legal professionals, to coach them to break through throughout their talents and skills and really make it to where they belong to, not where they were told to. So yeah, a combination of all of those, like packaging them up together and then positioning yourself as Awin is a, bundle of all of this.
So let's continue to
the
unpack.
passionate, the crazy.
Sorry, my apologies.
No problem. That they're all one person.
Go ahead, repeat that.
And if you want to work with me, if you want to live with me, if you want to be friend with me, this person is a full package. This person is the crazy one in the underground party. At the same time, she can shine on a red carpet. She can go on a fashion show. She can still kick asses in front of the court of law. She can go and kill and do transactions on the negotiation tables. And at the same time, you can create networking and educating and teaching people and bringing value to others. that this person is not one of these people. This person is all of them. Maybe today she's waking up as the teacher, tomorrow she's waking up as the negotiator, the day after she's the coach, but at the end of the week, she's all of them. So this is something that I wanted to tell you, because I know a lot of people, maybe in your audience, in my audience, in both of our communities, they may feel these kind of parts, or let's say passages or stations in their lives where they feel insecure or uncertain because they were told so. So that, what are you up to? Do you know what you want? Why are you, let's say, flipping from this stage to that stage? No, that is not a disease. That is not a problem. That is not confusion. That's a very healthy chaos. And that is actually, I think, the sexiest precondition for creating amazing order. Because
Can you
chaos
just
is the
say that
mother of
again?
creation. Yeah, I always say
I'm having a
crisis,
blast.
chaos. This, I see your smile, you know.
Yes, yes,
I
yes,
always
yes.
say
Because
crisis
I can
and
relate. This is my tribe right here.
how
I
great
can
is
totally
that?
relate. And there are a lot of us out there. So
I
I
mean,
can
you know
totally
that
relate.
famous saying as well, that chaos, and I mean, not chaos, the saying is saying crisis, but I added also up chaos to that. So I always say chaos and crisis are the mother of creativity. That is where innovation really arises, you know. Because when you are in trouble called crisis, disorder, people think, oh my God, there is no way out. Exactly at that time, those people who have been really flipping in their life with different career paths, with different personalities and multifaceted characters, they can find their way out. And they enjoy, actually. Honestly, throughout the COVID crisis, I was maybe one of the only, I mean, few, I wouldn't say only, I'm sure there are also some others like me, like you, some of the very few people that sometimes I was just sitting back and it was like watching a movie. Saying, this is interesting. It's sad, it's everything, but how people were reacting, how people were like following specific standards and cliches, how you go through times of, let's say, chaos and crisis. That was sometimes a little bit sad and funny at the same time, watching those kind of reactions, etc. Because I could say, this is a crisis, but that is exactly what needs to fire you up to find solutions, to help people, to create other pathways for your communities, for your family, for yourself. It's called pivot point, you know.
Yeah.
That makes it exciting.
Yeah. So here's what I want to do. You mentioned a couple of times now that you were a former athlete. So can you just tell us a little bit about that? And then I still want to go back to Tehran and talk a little bit more about that, because I find it so interesting. So what did you do?
I've been a sprinter. I've been a professional sprinter, and that has been, let's say, probably the only path that I could go through throughout the time. Also, suppression and a very, you know, tough regime there, especially for women. Being athletes or going into the path of sport career, etc. So it has not been very easy to go like in kind of fancy sports, etc. Yes, I'm also a passionate, super passionate skier and a golfer, but those were not really possible to maintain and also to practice back in time. However, running has been always, you know, I think in every country, that's the most simple thing that you can just grab to, because you don't need any facilities, you don't need anything. It is not a luxury sport. You don't need to do any investment. You just run. You just need to have the condition. You need to be have this endurance and or have the speed. So depending on which direction you want to go, and then you just need to be light and also have a very sharp brain, because it's just about being focused and just moving it forward. And this has brought me through getting to know some tough women coaches, actually, because, you know, throughout that time we were not also allowed to be coached by male coaches. So it made me familiar with that power women, badass kind of coaching as well. Those who were like really not pampering you or not spoiling you or telling you how cute or how fun and how strong and how fascinating you are.
Fascinating you are.
But exactly, but they were telling you exactly, they were like, how to say, pressing those pain points and triggering those pain points to push you exactly right there where you needed to get better, not where you were already good, you know. And that has been actually integrated I would say indirectly, because I believe that the whole life is non-linear. There is not a direct line from A to B. Sometimes it makes it more fascinating and also more exciting and creating better experiences when you do the non-linear path. And for me, also the non-linear path from, let's say, dealing with really badass coaches, female coaches, that afterwards, as I was reaching the goal and I was breaking that record, then at that time, yes, they were hugging me and bringing me out and inviting me for dinner, etc. So I was thinking, oh my God, actually, you're such a nice person. But this has been actually like ingrained also in my own brain for my own coaching style. With a lot of people, they tell me at the beginning, oh my God, but we heard you're a pretty tough one. Although we see you all the times, like in your videos or on stage, you're super laughter bomb and humor bomb. But when you coach people, then you are no longer really funny. So yeah, because you don't hire me to tell you how beautiful and how fascinating and how talented you are. You hired me to tell you where you are not there where you need to be. And this is
Yeah.
exactly where you want to grow. You don't want something this you can hear from your family, from your lover, from your, I don't know, husband, your wife, to tell you, oh, you look cute, you look fantastic, you're very smart. You hired me to tell you where you're not cute and smart so that we can push you forward. And this is when results will talk. Because yes, the process can be tough. It's exactly like the sports coach. I mean, they're the toughest coaches in the world, but when they see results, that is where the champagnes and the bottles are popped out and people celebrate, and then they can hug each other and get drunk with each other. That's totally fine. And afterwards, I also celebrate with my clients. So my sports career has not only impacted my coaching methods, but also my conflict resolution methods in a
Got it.
lot of things,
Got it. Got
especially
it.
as
Got
I
it.
started also, yeah, with, when you want to really go through something, when you want to be focused, when you have a specific goal, and when you do not think about like making a record and sometimes breaking a record, and also setting your own standards and records, they has been also helping me a lot after I started to learn specifically about conflict resolution, especially alternative dispute resolution out of court. There are a lot of
Okay.
things that I have
So
really
let me put a pin in it so that I want to
sure.
sort of really break things down even more. So um, that's very interesting, your background. I do find it on the point of consulting, coaching, etc. For the select clientele that I take on that area as well. I think a lot of it boils down to that compatibility because, like you, I do tend to drive hard as well, and I think a lot of it, if you just got to pick that person that's really compatible with you, because then they understand where you're coming from and you can get that result. Let's go back to Tehran. A lot of people, whether in business or outside of, often have such a hard time um, having a situation where they come out of trauma. A lot of people, most of the world, I think we all in some shape or form go through very traumatic events. And what you've explained based on your childhood is that you had, a very traumatic event growing up under that regime, particularly. How do you go from trauma to accomplishing what you do? And most importantly, not letting that define your identity? Because I think a lot of people get caught up in, because I went through all of this trauma, that trauma necessarily now defines me. And it's so hard to separate that identity from it. And then you wonder, if they don't have that traumatic identity embedded, who are they really? So for you, how have you been able to uh, overcome all the things you did, but then get to the place you are, and even then still going through deeper layers of self to emerge even brighter in the way you show up in the world?
I would say work, work, work. You need to really work through it. The time that you can um, stop standing within those traumas and problems, then the time starts that you can stand over them. So this needs a shift. It needs really how to say, a real quantum leap. It needs a paradigm shift, and all of those requires a lot of work, a lot of self-education, because unfortunately we do not learn those kind of things in universities or in the schools or just in the, let's say, traditional education system. We don't have majors like handling crisis or becoming crisis resistant or turning adversities to advantage. We don't have those kind of things. We have just, we all know what way we learn in school and what we don't. So for me, it has required a massive also investment in time, also in money, in energy, in courage, so that say, you know what, I'm gonna fix all of those, because I'm not gonna be defined by those exactly. I'm not gonna be defined by the circumstances. I'm gonna define them. And that shift is something that not many people really can go through. That's why I sometimes say, you know what, you cannot be proud of something that you have not done anything for. You cannot be a proud Iranian or proud African because you have not done anything for that. Your parents happened to be in one part of the world, and then they made love, and then you were born in that part of the world. You didn't do anything about it. So how can you be proud of something that you did not influence?
Interesting.
That is my definition. Yeah, that's why I'm not really a fan of saying I'm a proud German, I'm a proud Swiss. What are you proud of? You did not do anything about it. You need to be
That is
proud
so
of.
fascinating.
It's crazy, right? A lot of people at the
Interesting.
beginning, sometimes when I say that, they look at me like, what is she saying? I mean, yeah, but just think what comes after. You can be proud of what you have achieved yourself. If you have gone through a tough time, I don't know, in your private or professional life, if you have achieved a massive degrees in education, a great achievement in your work under tough circumstances, if you have survived really tough crises, if you have gone through crazy traumas in your world, and then you still are shining and helping others and educating others and providing great service and being of service for the world, that is something you can be proud of. So when I'm talking about those shifts, or when I talk about those investments that I have made in years or in hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through stuff, to really discover myself and to really take that surgical approach, you know how surgeons do, they open up a wound and then they start like to with the disinfection and cleansing, and then they start sewing it all together and putting the person together. It is not like they put a balm and say it's gonna be fine. It's not like giving somebody morphine. It's like really to open it up, do the scars, take care of it, and then treat that wound, and then let the person go through the painful recovery. You know, we know that actually the recovering from a wound or from a surgery is more painful than the pain before that. When a wound is recovering, that's where the skin comes together and regenerates itself. That is even more painful. And if people quit in that time, then the whole work is gone. Or exactly when you are just about to get to that record, when you're running or when you're in a sports match or something, those last 1 or 2 seconds, they count. They can be life-changing. But the thing is, a lot of people, they decide sometimes, because I believe always when you make the decision, when you say yes to the challenge, so half of the fight is won, actually. This is a great thing. So when you say yes, it's already halfway done. But without the second half, the first half is also meaningless. If you do not really go to the end, if you do not really accomplish, it is like you start writing a book and you never finished it. So it's like exactly you have not written anything. Or when you start going through an education and getting a degree, but when you not finish it, so you have no degree. So it's same as zero, actually, officially seen. So this has been for me, yes, a great shift, massive work, tough times, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of tears. But at the end of the day, I told myself, as you said, I'm not going to be defined but by what have tried to define me. I'm going to define those myself. So I'm not going to live a life by default, but by design, because I believe we can design our reality. We can bend our reality. Maybe with that, we can shift afterwards to why I fell in love with the concept of decentralization
Yeah,
and
well,
really
we're
define that.
definitely
Yeah,
making
because
our
we
way
can
through that
create.
transition. But before we do, let's get the comments that are coming in. This is from Henry Kupferstein, PhD. I hope I said it correctly. And she's saying same here to some of the comments you're making. And then Shireen Clark, we know
Oh
her
God,
around.
so
I
good
know,
to see
right?
you. I
She
see
said,
her curls.
Amen, Awin.
I love you.
So that's awesome, 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 awesome. So why don't we begin to transition to? I'm intrigued by the STEM background that you have, right, in science, technology, engineering, math, and
Not
then
engineering,
did,
statistics.
oh, even if, awesome, awesome, yeah. So I'm
More.
I'm very intrigued by that. I want to cover that a little bit, and then I want to make my way through to the NFT clubhouse community you've created, and particularly zoom in on your drop, because I loved I got the chance to attend your premiere,
Oh, I
and
remember.
the
Yes.
story behind it was like, I have to have you on the show. So why don't we go through talking first about your interest in mathematics? How did that come about? When did you find out? Considering back then, a lot of women you weren't seeing in that space. What was it about that fascinated you to begin with?
You know, I have always loved numbers and I have always loved logic, although by default, I'm an extremely impulsive, emotional person. I mean, that is actually the meaning of my name. You know, Awin is a Kurdish name meaning love, you know. But my nickname at home, with the age of 3 or something, started to be logic, another Persian or Kurdish word, but it was like the parallel to my Awin name as love. That name, let's say nickname, logic, was given to me as well. Because seemingly I've been a very, very curious and maybe a little sophisticated, smart little girl with a lot of hairs and a big head. And seemingly I have spent like most of my time, or even most of my, let's say, free time as a little kid without even being able to read and write, in my father's library. And he still has a great library. Like I mean, my father is an author, a retired teacher and an academic and a book publisher as well. So we were growing up amongst books. So our free time was spent like that. And as a kid, we were already dealing with really like thick books and sophisticated stuff, etc. And that was like a part of me that wanted order, science, system. And at the same time, let's say my right brainer side is a super free spirit, emotional, spontaneous, loving chaos sometimes, to create order out of chaos. Because if I feel like I am somewhere that everything works, then probably I have nothing to do. I need to get in oh my God, I'm so sorry. That was the excitement. So suddenly the whole stuff fell down the table. Sorry. I hope you can still see me.
That's a great illustration,
That was
because
me.
everything was going perfectly fine and regular, but you
Exactly.
felt like there was nothing to do. So you just, uprooted the camera. That
Yeah,
was a good, what do they call it?
that was
Exhibit
a
one.
proof.
Exhibit one. There you go. Evidence.
Exactly, exhibit one. That was good. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like
So
talking
please
about
go ahead.
systems, and suddenly everything went out of order. That was exactly, actually, I'm happy because that was like the proof, the proof of what I was talking about. Because I
Indeed.
feel like also why we lawyers also like to solve other people's problem, because normally people call upon us when they are in trouble. We are not normally being invited or being called when everything is happy clappy. When they feel like they're in trouble, when they feel like they don't understand something or they cannot handle something, then they feel like, oh, okay, let me call Miss Uruag, let me call Ewan. And for me, also going back to those early ages, I was always known as the problem solver, as a relationship facilitator. Even in the school, amongst other children, when they were like fighting, etc., everybody was calling, Ewan, Ewan, can you come and settle? help us. So, okay, one chocolate for you, one chocolate for you, problem solved. Or I was buying them like a sandwich and giving them half, half, half. Okay, let's now celebrate friendship again, problem solved. So coming out of all of those little incidents, I really discovered my love for also stars, for astronomy as well, because the science is also highly related to mathematics and logic and also philosophy. So from those days, I was already reading the books and the theories of Descartes, of Copernic, of Kepler, of Kant. And going through all of those things, I said, this is how I want to think. This is how I want to handle problems. This is how I want to resolve issues. And knowing all of this was like, you need to know numbers. You need to be able to create order out of disorder. You need to have logic. You need to have that ability to prove something before preaching it, you know. And coming to this level of proving before preaching, so not, let's say, it's exactly that what we expect also from those who are telling people what to do. Say, are you also practicing what you preach? Or are these what you're saying are also proven? Do they make sense also here? As a human is a creature of not only emotion but also logic, we have been given a brain to think and to decide what is right or what is wrong. So if there are cliches, if there are orders and rules and traditions, for example, these are what I call rules, which are bullshit rules. This is my polite abbreviation, rules. But I sometimes present it on stage and people will think, okay, what is rules? The Chicago Bulls? No, rules are bullshit rules. So there are rules that makes no sense. They have been made by some people, I don't know, maybe centuries before us, and now they're imposed on us. So why should we accept what we think it doesn't make sense? They don't make sense. And by those kind of stuff, it just has started. So how to think, how to analyze stuff, how to prove what we are talking about, how to come even from like counterproof to the correctness of something, to prove that the otherwise is wrong, and therefore you come to the result that yes, the initial theorem was right. And this kind of like playing back and forth with stuff, it really encouraged me to get really good at those things, to become really a person, like a kind of analytical person, a person who knows, who has a lot of focus, who knows to calculate properly, who knows to prove stuff properly. And that was the way which also led to my career path towards mathematics and statistics. And for me, as a person who always loved to do a lot of exciting stuff like gambling, so I mean not really gambling, but like taking risk, you know, as a born risk taker, statistics became also a part of that, because with that you could have calculated the risks or the probability of something happening or not happening by science, by logic, by formulas, by numbers, by precision, by planning and preparation. So that was something that I thought risk taker, love to think, love to have logic around circumstances and life happening and life strategies, and at the same time super emotional and impulsive about taking risk and going through the unknown. This can be the proper combination. This came out actually not 100% decided by myself, you know, because you know, normally when we are super young or in the school, we are not deciding, at least out back in my time, we were not deciding really what career path we need to tackle or what is the major that we're going to study. Normally the school grades or marks or teachers or parents, they were all together, coming together and deciding, okay, now you go and study chemistry or mathematics or physics or art, etc. But one thing that I had always with me, and it's still there inside me, has been always the artistic side of me as well, the rebel side of me, the emotional side, the creator side. And these are the things that now, again, coming out. But back at that time, we needed to be like super focused on one area, because in our country also there's a very, very high requirement for admission to the really high level elite universities. So those things were not really giving us the freedom to choose and say, okay, now 2 months I want to focus on art, and now 1 month on mathematics. No, you had to really sit there like 1 year, study hard, day and night, 24/7. With that age that people in Western countries, I don't know, they have fun, they do parties, they find like girlfriends, boyfriend, they experiment their youth. But for us, it was like sit down there, focus 1 year long. You want to get into a proper university, you need to really give all you can 24/7, and still you could have not made it. I mean, there was possibility as well. So this was, let's say, the path for me also to enter into that major in the university. And I never knew that couple of years afterwards, I will be somewhere in Switzerland and thinking, okay, I want to study again. What do you want to study? I want to do law. All of those things. I mean, when people still are telling me, what is your plans for next 5 years? Say, seriously, get out of my way. I don't know. I don't know. Because life happens. Yeah, I'm not just putting myself in the hands of coincidences or just life can take me wherever. But if I feel like this part of life, this wind is coming and taking me that way, or there's a calling for me to pull me into something and I resonate with it, then I go. It doesn't matter if there's a plan somewhere hanging on the wall. Yeah, my plan from last year, which was hanging on the wall, that was the first time I really made a plan for the whole year. It's like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years. Now everything looks 100% differently. 100%. 1 year ago, I didn't even know what NFT stands for. I didn't even know what metaverse is. I didn't know what is a DeFi, decentralization. And my plan for this time of the year, for Q4 2021, was totally different based on what was on paper last year.
And now so you're leading a community of it.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. So, but for me, that doesn't make sense. That's why also in interviews, etc., for law firms, when they were coming with this typical standard question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That was the most horrific situation for me, because that was the only situation while presenting myself that I was forced to lie. I was forced to lie, because if I was honest, saying, I don't know, then they could have rejected me like they did. But the 2 times that I lied...
But they were able to smell you out anyways and reject you. They're like, she's an entrepreneur. She's going to go build her own and then travel the world while others manage her business.
They couldn't. The only 2 times that I lied, and I punished myself 300 times for that, because I feel extremely uncomfortable with lying, because I think lying is coward and it's for the weak people, for people who have no confidence. But I had to, because I thought, if I want to get into this industry, at least for the internships, because afterwards I can do whatever I want, but I need this internship now. And they want to know from you that you see yourself in 5 years as a partner of this law firm, bringing crazy clients and sitting here and contributing to this firm as hell. So I had to say this, and then I was accepted exactly for those 2 interviews. And for more than 100, I was rejected, because I was saying, honestly, I don't know. I think maybe I'm very much interested in a project in X country, or I would like to maybe do a PhD, or, you know. So
and now that you're
to hear that, yeah.
And now that you're a business advisor, you understand why a business would want that certainty in its employees, needless to say, with that hiring, because they don't necessarily want an future employee, they're going to do all that investment, all that money, all that time, only for them to be gone, within a year or 2. So I understand it's quite a challenge, and finding that, accepting fully that that's what you are, so that you can then chart your own pathway, is always so important. But before we get into more details, let me
tell you one thing.
Hold on 1 second. I want to pull in some of the comments that have been coming in.
Okay, sure.
And then we'll go into further discussion. So Shireen, back when you made a comment, said, love you both. Really enjoying today's inspiring interview. Thank you so much, Shireen, for tuning in and watching. We appreciate you. She also, when you had that camera situation happen, she says, great recovery, a true professional. And then there's a comment. I don't know why it's not showing the individual, but it says LinkedIn user, and it says incredible in caps. I can, in caps, completely relate to this perspective and way of approaching the world. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So you were going to say,
I
you were
wanted
going to
to
say
add
one more
one
thing.
thing to
Mhm.
that comment, what I said with regards to, let's say, employees, etc. Because now, as I started to build my own team, actually, I highly welcome exactly those people who function also like myself, because then they will find their safe haven with me, because those people need to be understood as well. And when those people who do not tell me in 5 years I want to be XYZ, and I can read their mind because I was one of them as well, then for me, actually, they are the best fit for my mission as well. Because my business is as well also the shifting and pivoting all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
last year, my focus, my target market was slightly, I would say 60% different than what is happening now. Or what will be next year will be probably 200% different. Or the services that I'm going to provide are going to be extremely different. And this requires also a team that can keep up with this kind of changes, because otherwise, if there is one person who says, oh my God, I thought I'm going to do I don't know, company formation and company setup with you for 5 years. That's why I came. Then that person is not a right fit for me. Yeah, because these 6 months we are focusing on company formations, but now a new business opportunities here. Now we have like thousands of artists queuing to be consulted by us or to be helped by us for their contracts or for their negotiations, for their business advices and promotions,
Mm-hmm.
and also legal stuff. So business is pivoting. Now you need to acquire new skills. Now you need to pivot as well. Now you need to adjust as well. And those kind of people, they can be also the best parts of those teams as well, because they are ready to pivot and to adjust and to grow and to learn with you. If they are really fixed on one specific task and say, I'm going to do this for 30 years, actually, I mean, as an entrepreneur myself, we are always subject to change and evolution and constant growth. Yes, we need to have a specific system as well, of course, but it should not be defined for the next 10 years. There are businesses that are rocking it that way. It's okay. They need to, it's okay. I mean, like Aristotle said, each person, how to say, it's his definition of justice, actually say, each person his part. If somebody is happy with this and he's getting that, then that is justice for him. And if the other person is happy with something else and he's getting that something else, that is justice for him. So they should not get the same thing. And that is why I'm saying also for businesses and also for career, for planning, not for all of us the same rule apply.
Mm-hmm.
We need
Mm-hmm.
to find what is that does us good and our team good. And then when we find that tribe around us and those people who are fired up to volunteer to come and help you in that accomplishing that mission, they are your tribe, they are your team.
That's a very interesting perspective on the ever shifting goals of a business, which, of course, we all know. If you're a business owner, which I am, and I'm sure a lot of folks watching are entrepreneurs as well. Certainly, my community are made up of a lot of entrepreneurs. So I get it in that sense. But the question that usually follows with that is then how profitable is the business? Can a business truly be profitable if it is that fluid in changing? With its, okay, here's the direction we're going, direction A, but then business opportunities come in the other direction. So can you clearly define that in
Yeah,
terms of how that translates into profitability? And when
it's
you're
a
done with
very
that,
good
we'll
question.
begin wrapping it up with the NFT discussion.
Sure, that is actually a very, very good question, because what I said is not just to go and shift wherever you feel like it is fun. You need to shift wherever you also calculate, that comes again, the whole mathematical and the strategic way of thinking. When you see a trend is coming, sometimes it is not really important if you're the best. It is sometimes more important if you're the first. So if you're the first or one of the first or the early adapters who can catch the train early enough, then on the way you can perfect yourself. While you're progressing, perfection can happen as well. Then you can acquire the knowledge and the data and information that it takes to also be, let's say, not only the first but also the best. Because while you establish yourself also somewhere as a brand, you need to have a kind of pioneer attitude as well. And that pioneer attitude requires a huge appetite for taking risk, because a lot of people, they don't want to be the first, because they want another few people to go in front so that they see, okay, they have tried it, now I'm going. I mean, live example these days or this year is like vaccinating, etc. A lot of people were just sitting back and said, let everybody else does, and then I will check out if they're feeling well, then I'm going to do. For example, a lot of people that I knew closely, they were thinking that way. But if you're convinced by something, by a trend, for example, because one specific bold, let's say, habit or skill that we as entrepreneurs need to have is identifying the trend, the upcoming trend, and then analyzing and say, okay, this trend, does it also resonate with me? I mean, if you are a banker, you definitely don't want to do NFT. You may want to look at it from a financial perspective to see, okay, let me check out with my clients if they want to invest here or not. But if you have something with it that you feel like, okay, let me learn a little bit about it, let me study it a little bit, and if that resonates with me, and that's at the same time, it happened also to be a trend that it cannot be stopped. And does it relate to me? Yes. What is the risk of the profitability or also the losses? What is the opportunity? What is the loss? So if you do also a proper SWOT analyze and see, okay, what is this market telling me? What is the what are the chances? Who is joining this trend? You know, sometimes you see now when I'm noticing that big auctionists and like huge, some well-known investors or personalities or needle movers are joining these markets, it all gives me that, let's say, credibility that yes, okay, my choice was by 80% or 90% probably the right choice, because at the beginning you go into it and you feel everything feels right, but there is also a risk of failure. Maybe now I'm putting a lot into this, but it will not work. So the strategy when you want to look at it beforehand is not to put all your eggs in one basket. This is definitely the right strategy. So I did not suddenly push aside all of other things that I have been doing. I still kept my other clients, or I still had like it's kind of 30% of focus on the other things that I did. But then I had to shift also a lot of my resources into this new trend with the team, with myself, with my knowledge. It's like every day I'm learning at least 2-3 hours about what is now new in the market, what is upcoming, and especially as I'm running also those rooms, etc. I have this responsibility to deliver something, that makes sense also for the community. And that is like a kind of ongoing urge for yourself as well to become great at what you're trying to deliver to people. So this is something that I hope it was a maybe proper or a clarification that can make sense also for yourself or those amazing people who are just now in the show or who watch it later, that I don't say that you just need to follow every change. You just need to first listen to your heart, to that gut feeling. Does it feel right? Does it feel right? That's number one. And then after you feel that is here feeling right and your emotions are also confirming it, then come here. Because you know the decisions are normally made by heart, but they are justified by the brain. When we see that the justification comes and the brain said, okay, let's do a calculation, let's put some numbers and facts together, let's put a paper on a table and see, okay, how we can move forward, what is the roadmap for the next few months, and whether this thing makes sense after having done a proper due diligence as well. That is the time that we say, okay, risks are by 80%, no, by that would be crazy, like by 20%, but 80% chances are that we can rock it. Who is coming with me? And these are your tribes, because those people, if they have also that 20% in mind as well, and they are ready to go with you without even probably expecting much, or they're putting like all of their hours and powers also with you. And for me, these are the right people that you set the fire and they come with you and they fan the fires. You know, that's from Rumi.
Awesome. I appreciate the clarification. And I like how you just now went step by step on what that means. Because, for example, you say you take that risk and then there could potentially be failure, and it's a risk you take. You did give the analogy when it comes to the body. I think that's a different thing, because if it's a failure, you don't get the chance to necessarily come back and do that. So two distinct things. So I do appreciate you clarifying that. Now there is there's a comment coming in from Mariam Sain. She says she's unsure why the name and her name and profile is not coming up from LinkedIn. I know, because we saw Shireen's, But she says this comment is from Mariam Sain, a biotech engineer. Thank you, Mariam Sain, for watching and commenting as well. Great comments so far, so good that you're also adding to the discussion. Thank you. And then I think she's continuing. She says, this is such an important and insightful discussion and really highlights the characteristics of a high-functioning entrepreneur. Excuse me, only these tendencies and characteristics, only these tendencies and characteristics are not always well recognized or identified in women. Well said, Mariam. Completely agree. And I think, Awin, you can certainly concur with her comments, because that's true. When we do it as women, we are seen as being all over the place, right? But when you have male counterparts do it, there's a lot more praise, right? There's so much praise with the ability to be visionaries, with the ability to be to have diverse portfolios, to be invested in so many things, and even attract more investors because of the ability to see different things that are going on and having their hands in different things. Whereas when you see us women have the same characteristics, there's more of choose one thing. You seem so confused, unless you are both male and female in the creative arts industry. I think you a lot of artists generally get that choose one thing as well, like just be a musician or just be, but outside the scope of that, we do generally see a lot of women having to deal with get focused, among other things. So I think your presence here means a lot, and that's why I was saying let's really unpack that part you were saying you were getting into, because it resonates with so many people. So transitioning from that discussion on taking risk, you mentioned last year, complete different profile on your business trajectory, where you were going. This year, you're now in Q4, fourth quarter, looking into not only the NFT space, but all in, and even had a drop that you did. So why don't we just start wrapping up by clearly defining what NFTs are, how you got into the space, and then you keep holding meetings every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you've been able to amass just a powerful community of folks in that space. What does all of this mean for the entrepreneur, both within the creative and outside the creative sector, watching this, that are saying, okay, what I've seen non-fungible tokens, and what do you mean by drop, and what's that all about? Let's get into it. And I want to get into the story of your drop. It's so fascinating. So please indulge.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this up. It also excites me as well, and it warms my heart when we even again talk about that, or when I need to articulate my memories, which are not so far away now as of when we are considering the time. It all happened at the beginning of this year, actually, as I joined Clubhouse. So that is why I say sometimes, if somebody asked me what is the name that you can put on 2021, I would say Clubhouse. Because for a lot of people, it might have seemed like, okay, this is just another social media channel or something that people come and gather and just talk or share insights. But for me, it has been life-changing. I mean, look at the people now, you, Shireen, and thousands of other brilliant people. We all met there. All of this wouldn't have been possible. Probably we could have by chance met somewhere else on LinkedIn or something. But to be honest, I met and I could really get associated and much more closely to people that have been, we discovered that we have been like in contact on LinkedIn for 10, 12 years, but we just got to know each other, or to run rooms with each other, or to get into personal conversations on Clubhouse. And as we were trying to add one another on LinkedIn, we said, oh my God, don't tell me this. We have been connected now for 7 years, but we haven't even exchanged like one single message, and I didn't know who you were. But now we are like running rooms together. Is it a joke? So this is something that I just wanted to give this credit, let's say, to Clubhouse, that brought like this huge change and massive shift also into many of us lives, especially through the times of, let's say, crazy quarantines and lockdown, the beginning of the year and end of last year, that we were all like forced to stay at home. And it has been like the heaviest lockdown of the past 2 years. But then it came to this heaviest community building, and that's really deep need of all of us as human beings to get personal again, to get that personal touch, to talk with each other, to sit like in rooms, in intimate, smaller, tidy rooms with each other, and tiny rooms, and talk about like specific topics of personal and professional concerns. And in one of those rooms, it happened that I attended an amazing person's room called Wolf X Lion, Jin Yu. Many of you might have known him as well. To me, he has been one of the most influential persons on Clubhouse, and an amazing, great friend and supporter also to myself, and also to the NFT community, of course. He passed away, unfortunately, August 10th, so like 45 days ago, but his memory will always remain, and his love and his presence will be always here amongst us, and especially beside me, sitting like always on my right shoulder, telling me, hey, when you need to go and push NFT community with your legal knowledge. He was telling me this all the time. And the first time I stumbled into his room, it was a small room. I mean, for his followership, he had a huge follower community and a huge club on Clubhouse. But at that time, because the topic was so niche, there were like 30 people in his room. And he knew me, and he just pulled me up on stage and say, Awin, you are here. Say, yes, sir. And I had at that time like 100, 200 followers. I mean, really like little tiny number on Clubhouse, new. And he said, I need to introduce you also to one of the co-founders of Foundation. I said, what kind of foundation? Foundation, are you talking about a legal structure? He said, no. Foundation is a new platform for NFTs. I said, what does NFT stand for? Well, I mean, seriously, I came into this room totally out of curiosity. I thought it stands for like Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg. I mean, it's maybe an artist name. And he said, no, it stands for non-fungible tokens. And we're exactly talking about this because some amazing artists are also here. They have been dropping their works now to your term and to your question. I was saying, what is dropping and minting and listing? What is this language you guys are talking about? Have I come into a total different platform or planet? And then in that room, it suddenly hit my mind, and I thought, okay, this is a total different area that I have ever dealt with, or I have never dealt with. But let me listen, because I cannot just leave something without knowing whether it could have resonated with me or not. And I believe I have learned throughout my life that actually you don't reject something, or you just don't feel offended by something before you really know it. And at that time I said, let's give it a chance. It's locked down, it's everything. It's Wolf's room. I mean, his rooms are always so full of knowledge and value. And he invited me up to the stage, so it's impolite if I just leave. So I stayed out of politeness, and like caring for a great friend and supporter who just brought me up. I said, so I'm not leaving. Let me give this hour or 2 hours and see what is going on here. And that was enough for me to make me extremely curious, and not only curious, but also interested. Because the first stage is curiosity. Sometimes when your curiosity is satisfied and you're fulfilled, say, okay, now I know what it is. Thank you. I'm not interested. But once your curiosity is being now, let's say, amplified by interest, then it's tough to let that thing go. Then you want to know more. You want to do more. You want to understand more. You want to connect with more people. And that was exactly what has happened to me. And so I started to think about it, to understand a little bit. And then as I really got a basic level of understanding of what is token at all. I mean, I didn't really know. I heard a lot about tokens, etc., before cryptos and digital currencies. But then, as a lawyer and as a financial crime compliance expert for the second Swiss major bank, I was always thinking, you guys are criminal. I wasn't even, let's say, ready or open to hear what is this thing about, what is crypto. Criminals, go ahead. I'm not hearing something that I cannot, I'm not investing in something that I can't touch. Go away. So this was my attitude. And this attitude, that's why I'm saying you cannot always plan for stuff. Sometimes things come, I mean, as Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get that punch in the face, And that punch, for me, it was done by Mr. Wolf X Lion, may he rest in power. But that was for me. And he said, Awin, I think you are a good player for this market. Go. Do you see how many bold Iranians are also co-founding these platforms? You are
Yeah,
missing
that's
here.
true.
You are a lawyer. Go ahead. You need to be bold here. You need to become a leader, build a community. You're so knowledgeable, but then learn also about this stuff and acquire that knowledge and adapt it into making a kind of like educational platform, etc., to help people also with the legal knowledge and the services that you can provide. So that was the time that I started to understand what is a token, what is non-fungible, why is digital asset is worth investing in, how these investments are being done, how is it to create a wallet, what currency it is, all of those things, like learning the alphabets of a new language. And for me as a lifetime student, that fires me up all the time when then I'm challenged to learn something new. And then I thought, okay, you know what? Life is crazy. I have so much to do. I'm busy, blah, blah, blah. Now, Clubhouse, everything. How can I also organize and plan sometimes to learn this stuff? And my plan were to do actually something totally different this year. I wanted to build a team around providing XYZ service. And then I fell in love with the nature, with the juice of this concept, just with the whole concept about decentralization. I thought always decentralization means like, circumventing great regulations and laws and, violating. But then I thought, no, 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 no. It's not about violating. It is exactly what is inside of my heart. It is creating the new, creating a new reality, because maybe a lot of systems and the rules and laws that we have, or the models and setups, they no longer make sense. Yes, currency, money, banks, everything amazing. They have helped us, or maybe didn't help us for hundreds of years now, but now there's a revolution, there's a change happening, and you cannot, me as a messenger of change and a changeling, how I've been always called, as a changeling, you cannot watch a change happening and the train passing you by, and then you just stand there and waving and saying, I'm not embarking. No, check it out. You can embark, nothing is happening. What can happen? At the end of the day, you might have lost some time, but have learned some stuff and then decided, okay, I got it, but it's not for me. Then you can make a conscious decision. But you cannot make a decision based on not knowing something. You know, this is for me also what I present always in my presentations or sessions about risk mitigation. What is the most simple, understandable definition of risk? This has been delivered by Mr. Warren Buffett. Risk means not knowing what you're doing.
Hmm.
Could it be more simple than that? Hallelujah. It means not having enough information, data, and knowledge around a specific circumstance. And if I don't know something, then I'm not prepared, then I cannot plan accordingly, then I cannot have precision, then I don't have power over it, and that calls risks, because then I don't know what is behind that. I don't know how to prepare. I don't know how to step into this market. But when I learn, when I acquire knowledge and information, then the risk is not eliminated yet, of course, but it's mitigated to a massive level. It's much, much more less. Maybe from 80%, it's coming to 8%. So I decided to acquire knowledge. And then I said to myself, you cannot become perfect at this and then start helping other people. Why don't you learn with the people yourself? That was a great model. This has been something that I have been always also telling to others, that you teach the best what you want to learn the most. And this is the system that has been also the principle of my own life. That I said, okay, you do not have time now to go to a NFT university and decentralized or blockchain university now, and after 4 years come back, and then the market is full. There's no space maybe for you anymore, or then it gets harder. But now you are one of the very few in the market, and you have this passion, you also have this drive and dedication and this urge to help other people as well and to build community by giving them education and information. Let's get into this. Let me also, yes, I am now maybe 3 steps ahead of those people who are coming to my rooms, but that is enough, because then I'm done for the next 3 weeks what I want to deliver to them. And then I have an amazing panel as well, because I believe that you cannot be an expert in everything. Otherwise, you're not expert. You're just all over the place, as you just said. And if you want to know everything, at the end of the day, you will end up knowing nothing. And then if you want to work with everyone, you end up working with no one. So I just told myself, look, there are areas of this thing that I can really learn and master it and provide services as well, especially on the legal sides with regards to the collaboration contracts, to negotiate, to resolve disputes, to help people promote their work. And I'm also pretty good at pitching and promotion and positioning in business side, and that is what is missing now in the artists and collector communities, and they are really coming to me like every day for different projects. But then I thought, okay, I know these kind of things, but there are a lot of other things in the tech area and about the regulations and about the decentralized finance systems, etc., wallet securities, the digitization. These are the things that I really don't know. And I don't need to know it all, so I don't need to run those rooms alone. I bring other people. I mean, like, for example, I add you, I add Alex, I add all of the others. I mean, IP is not my area. So I do not say I know when I give information. No, I don't. So I bring a panel and we can do collective value creation. I always believe that knowledge as such is not power. Applied knowledge is power, and shared and combined knowledge is multiplied power. This is
That's
where you can
amazing.
really put it into execution with a kind of collective consciousness, not only, but collective practice. And that has been like the whole concept and the background of why these rooms got started, and then why they have been going on for this coming week, 26 weeks in a row,
Wow.
as the first and the only room on Clubhouse
That is
with the most diverse
amazing.
panel, because
That
there
is
are rooms that they
amazing.
have only lawyers, there are rooms that they have only artists, there are rooms that they have only regulators or crypto experts. But then I said, no, in my panel, we want to be diverse because each expert from one area can add different value from his own side. And all of these problems or opportunities, they're connected.
Yeah,
So yeah, this has been
that is
the,
amazing.
and it
Wow.
excites me actually, to be
That
honest,
is
when I'm
that
even
is
talking about
amazing.
it. Yeah.
That is amazing. That's amazing. So let's do the final wrap with talking about you've been hosting the rooms, having diverse conversations with industry stakeholders as well as the lawyers on the IP side of things. Some really great names: Mitch Jackson,
Yeah.
Ira, David Bianchi, who I had
Ellie,
on the
David,
show.
you,
Thank you so much. So many wonderful people that I've gotten an opportunity to
Jesse,
meet in your
Zach,
room. Jesse,
Kevin.
yes, Ali,
There are
so many
many,
amazing
man.
people. Yeah. So having said that, you progressed to now have your own NFT drop. And I want to talk about that because it was so fascinating to me to put a bow in this whole conversation and wrap it up and serve it up to our audience as we get ready to say goodbye. So talk a little bit more about your own NFT drop and the very fascinating story behind that.
Thank you. Thank you for asking this. I totally forgot it amongst the excitement of creating the rooms and the NFT education, etc. But now getting back to that piece, it all happened actually also. It was not also planned because I wanted to, and I had the intention to create something on my own as well. And my intention was also to create it in a kind of collaboration model because, NFT is it is very also digitized, so I have no clue about digital art. I have no clue about animation or creating like motion artists, etc. But my heart is artistic and I understand systems and I am a creator and an innovator and I have ideas as hell. So I was thinking, look, there is an exhibition coming up, and that was a metaverse exhibition that I was collaborating also with the team. They approached me also because they have met me in some rooms, etc. And they said, you know what, we want to introduce and promote this project, and it's called Mother Earth. And we want to present or raise awareness about the challenges and the catastrophic circumstances and the tragic situation of our Mother Earth, of our planet. like deforestation, wildfires, animal extinctions, ocean pollution, massive trawlings of fishing, industrialized fishing, and so on and so forth. So just the list can go long. And I fell in love with the mission because as a nature lover and somebody who loves animal, who loves nature, who thinks very sustainable, although I do not have children myself, but I always think I feel very responsible what we are going to leave behind. That should not be a kind of ruined planet. It is almost halfway, unfortunately. But then I thought, you know what, as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. And I have always lived by this mantra. I just thought, great project. Maybe universe was hearing me that I want to create something and then put me in front of it. Oh my God, again, I'm so sorry. I mean, your audience will kill me.
That's okay. We're good.
Every time I get excited,
it's just post-production work extra for the editing on post-production. But you're good.
That's authentic. That's fine. We don't have it.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yes.
Here's one thing I do know categorically. You are a very energetic woman who is so driven, and we definitely share that in common. And I'll make you feel even more at home. I am so clumsy. I don't even know where to begin, right? I've over time become a lot better, but I grab things and just things happen. Let's just put it that way. So I could totally relate. So I feel like I'm in good company from the beginning of this conversation all the way till the end. It's like literally, you know how you meet people and it's like, oh, wow, they really get me. I'm having my moment here.
My whole life.
I'm having my moment here.
You're good to hear that I don't.
And this is a very conversational type of podcast, not seeking for perfection, certainly striving for excellence, especially when it comes to the rubbing of the minds, to challenge status quo, to have in-depth discussions, layered, take our time to unpack it. But it's not to be confused with perfection in terms of presentation, because I do seek authenticity in a very real form. And we're all navigating different types of tools to tell storytelling. And they're different forms of storytelling, the more traditional ones we know. And then they're the ones that are emerging, which includes my kind of platform, which it really is about the message, where it's not filtered. You made a very interesting comment I wanted to segue to, but decided to just leave alone, which was how you go back and forth to your interest in mathematics and the logical reasoning to arrive ultimately at the truth. I think we live in a world where that's not even being appreciated anymore. And I would argue even within our legal profession, you're not seeing that kind of vigorous debate, that kind of vigorous next level. How do we propel this forward? How do we influence in terms of the kind of laws we create, which ultimately then with the laws we create our value systems, and those value systems then ultimately impact our culture globally. And I think there's a major erosion and evisceration of that period. So to hear someone like you say, I value that, that's important to me, that's how I found my pathway to where I'm at, is the kind of message, the kind of authenticity I'm hoping that this platform provides, which includes that, the tools may not be perfect. And yes, once in a while, the cameras might shake or all kinds of things, but big deal.
It's life.
Let's have the conversation we want to have. The important stuff, the transformational stuff, the life shifting stuff. That's what we're here for. So exactly. I appreciate you, and it's not a big deal. If you want to shake the camera more, shake it up.
No. I just tried it to say, okay, whether
shake it up more if you want to. Let's get it out, right?
Anytime I hit my fist on the table, then everything. But that's okay. I mean, I think that we are in the same page.
Different cultures too. African culture is a lot of explanation. I know Iranian culture for sure. Persian, Iranian culture. I have a lot of Persian friends and other immigrant groups. Lots of
there's a lot of energy.
Exactly, and hand movements.
Like a volcano. It's always like
yeah. So
Yeah,
back to
okay,
the
let me.
conversation on the on wanting to collaborate, tell the story, the environment you're talking about, and the importance of the environment, and how super important it is, and then finding yourself saying, okay, yes, I may not have children, but I definitely want to be a part of leaving an environment that
Yeah,
children worldwide inherit that is somewhat okay, at least they
yeah.
can breathe. So
At
that,
least, yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
right. And that informed the drop you ultimately had. So just explain to everyone what a drop is in the context of NFT, and then where people can go see that particular drop that you've had to
Yeah,
sort of
sure.
understand fully the story before we wrap it up.
Sure. I mean, a drop is that NFT piece that you have created, and the moment that you, let's say, okay, now the work is done and it's created, you call it, okay, drop party, or the work is dropped, etc. So you call it that NFT drop, and then the moment you also, let's say, submit it on that blockchain platform, which are different ones available now, then you call that process also minting. Then you say, okay, I have minted that work. And then the moment you also put a price on it, or you open an auction on it and open the platform for other people to come and place bids, etc., then you say that is the process of listing. So the moment that you say, okay, I decide to sell it now. So I define now, I announce that it's open for sales and for auction, etc. That's the process of listing. And then the moment that the transaction is completed, whether it's sold or the bid has won the auction, etc., then actually the work is transferred. Then it's transferred from your wallet to somebody else's wallet. And this thing's also, the great thing about blockchain is that for the sake of transparency or backtracking the whole history of a let's say NFT drop, I mean that artwork, you can backtrack the whole history, who owned it the first time, who created it the first time, and then transferred to whom, and then from which hand to which hand, So then you will have like a kind of the whole background monitoring, which we have been, for example, doing as compliance officers, like the whole due diligence and background monitoring, etc. The whole history of a transaction, everything is just on the blockchain platform, which makes it so amazing and so transparent. And at the same time, there are also risks coupled with that transparency that are anonymity, because a lot of people, they don't want to disclose or expose themselves with their real identity. So they have like kind of, I don't know, nickname or a nick photo or something. There is a little bit of like say the conflict, and that creates risks also when you don't know whom you're dealing with. It can be exciting and interesting at the same time for that person who want to stay anonymous. That's also fine. You respect his anonymity, and at the same time it creates a certain level of risk. You don't know whom are you dealing with. So this was just a little, let's say, bouncing back to a little bit of the risks also on the whole platform. But with regard to that work, it was, let's say, my idea. And I thought, okay, something that has been keeping me busy a lot. There are like 2-3 areas, of course, especially also the wildfires that are happening now like crazy in the whole world. And it's like destroying massively the whole forests, and I would say the natural assets and the wealth of nations just going away like that every year in wildfires. And at the same time, I was speaking to another artist who was the expert for the, let's say, digital effects or for the motions and animations of the work. And then I said, look, in my works, if I'm going to enter this NFT market, also as creator, you don't need to be necessarily an artist, because NFT market is now opened up for scientists, for architects, for investors, for collectors, so that everybody can actually share and mint their own drop. And that drop should not be like at the beginning necessarily a piece of art, like a painting or a piece of music. It can be a scarce, rare, irreplaceable, or non-fungible asset. So this is the cool thing. And so I said, if I want to enter this platform, I want to be present. Also, I want to be visible in all of the works that I'm minting, in all of the drops, because I believe that all of these works that I want to have them in my name and the platform, they need to carry a part of me, because they are all related or connected to a personal concern of me, or a message that I care for to deliver personally to my audience or to the world. my voice, my face, my presence, or my texts or something from me must be there. So that was the reason that I, also like yourself, I've been working like for a couple of years also as photo model. So I'm like full of all of those amazing photos that I have from the past. And I was thinking, I need to use them now. They're all mine. So I have some of them that they could resonate with certain missions or to conveying certain messages very, very well. Because, they're me, it's my body, it's my posture, it's my posing, it's my impression. And then I was looking at a couple of them. I said, look, now something that could work with these 2-3 photos that I have could be the ocean trawlings and the ocean pollution. So let us see which one works with which, or pick one of them quickly and start creating it. So I picked one of my photos, and then I had also already a text in my head that I was like pulling in my head all the time. Like, that's why the name of the drop was also Fading Ocean Dreaming. So kind of a dream that is already fading. And for the next generations, this whole beautiful blue oceans can be only as a dream that has been fading in our time, because we have just, exploited it and taken it all away and polluted it at the end and left them like a useless, maybe, I don't know, pool of water with nothing.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, maybe even not.
Yeah.
So
hopefully we can change that.
hopefully, yeah. I was just seeing the worst side, because my message or my mission was to really scare or terrify the person who was watching. Say, look, this is how it's going to look like if we don't do anything now.
Anything.
So that was the reason that some people were saying, oh my God, I was looking at the work. Yeah, we could recognize you and your voice, but it was a bit terrifying. It's great. So it's done. Actually, that was my intention. Thank you for saying this.
The intention.
And the intention was to exactly create that atmosphere of a dark ocean that is a little scary. And then I told that artist, okay, how can we really demonstrate this? Because I want to be in this. I want to be like drowning. And he said, yeah, the great thing is that I can also create a net around you, so that you are actually like the fish that the human is now trying to troll and to take out of the ocean so massively. So that I said, okay, this is great, because at the end of the day, I want to convey the message that if we continue this model, this process of trawling the oceans without taking care of all of this, wealth underneath the oceans, then at the end of the day, maybe in 10 years or in 50 years, it is us who is sinking and drowning.
That will become the victims of our very own pollution.
So it will affect ourselves. What we are doing now to the nature, it will come back. This is very, very simple. So the equation was like this, and then he helped me, of course, to create those effects also. And also I told him I want a little bit of scary noises, background noises of an ocean, like the water noises, like when blah, 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 you're like drowning. And then we want to have like a big city life also just in the background, something that you noticed as well. As
yes, it's really well done.
To see, okay, this is demonstrating this kind of industrialization and also globalization, and everything is just dynamic and modern, and we are just building and doing and eating and consuming, and then we don't see what is in front of us actually, that ocean, that wealth. So this was created this way, and then we tried to bring it also into motion, because I told him I don't want static works, I want that it's moving and people realize that it's me sinking or drowning and I can't even probably breathe anymore, or I'm just surrounded by this net. And the text that I also sang a little bit like a kind of memory in the background.
Beautiful voice, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was actually the first time that I sang as a recording in let's say for public. That was the whole story around it, and that the drop was minted and listed in OpenSea platform.
Yes.
And my ID or my account under OpenSea is my own name, Awin, but split like A/win. Sorry, A-win. So Awin. And then it was, I opened it for auction. I think the day that you came to the room, it was the drop party that I was celebrating the dropping of the work and then opening the auction. And then one day later, I think the first bid was placed, and I decided to transfer it to that same lady who placed the bid, because she's been one of the people, one of my fans, or one of the amazing attendees in my Thursday's room. And she said, as I heard that you dropped your first NFT, I said, I want to have it finished.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then I saw it and I fell in love with it, and I want to have that in my collection. So that was also the process. If people want to look at it, they can still go to my collection, but then if they check out the work, Fading Ocean Dreaming, they will find it in somebody else's collection because it's
awesome.
First,
awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
This was
well, thank you so
more work
much.
in making, actually. More work
Of
in
course,
making.
it's just it's just the
Just got
beginning.
started.
Absolutely. Let me get Mariam has one more comment, so let me get her in, and then yes. Oh, let me do this actually, so that way it's easier for everyone to get this. So she said, I completely agree. Mariam says, I completely agree with both of you. I believe that sometimes the stiffness and protocol around conversations take away from focus on the depth and meaning that can be gained. I believe that making a decision not to worry about any of the environmental factors allows us to only focus on the substance and depth. So I'm enjoying this more relaxed yet in-depth discussion. Thank you so much. We appreciate you watching. And you've just had
don't want to cut
amazing...
that scene.
Oh no, there's nothing to cut. The only thing we'll probably do for the podcast listeners, the only thing we will do is just probably do a little post-production so that they're not like driving, cooking, cleaning, and it's like, oh my God, what was that? What happened?
Exactly.
Where did that come from in my house?
I know.
Do I have an intruder?
You don't want them to make an accident because of our camera drop.
Yeah, or think there's an intruder in their house or something. Awin, I just want to really thank you. I've put your information out there throughout when you've been talking, where people can find you. Awin Tavakoli, our guest today, lawyer, business advisor, international speaker, so many more titles we couldn't quite fit in here. So you just have to manage with what we have. But you can follow her on Instagram at Awin, at AWIN Legal, which you can find scrolling at the bottom of our screen. I want to really thank you so much for coming on. You have been just absolutely fantastic. Thank you so, so much. I really enjoyed learning about you, learning about the way you approach business, learning about the way you want to create leaders who ultimately go on to impact even more people, more leaders out there, and just your overall outlook, your philosophy, and what you're doing. It's just been so insightful and helpful, as you can also see with the comments. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Please
I appreciate
stay
you.
in the waiting room. I'm just going to close it out with my audience, and I will join you so we can chat very, very briefly. Thank you so much for being here. And everyone, you have her information, so you know where to find her. And let me just make sure, yes, so you know where to find her. All right. So thank you so much for joining us, Mariam, Shireen, and everybody else, even though you may not have left comments, but you're watching. Those who are going to listen on the podcast, thank you so much. It was such a delight having her. She had so much she covered. And what I really like is how she approached trauma and was able to overcome that to accomplish all the things she's done, but not to just step up the accomplishments. Because I think a lot of us, from entrepreneurs to C-suite executives to, talents, creatives within the creative industry and outside of, there's a tendency to just be wrapped up with the accomplishments and not go deeper. And Awin is so intentional about not just only accomplishing, but discovering deeper and deeper levels and layers of herself, and then using that to further improve, whether it's her clients on the business advisory side or everything else she's doing. I think that's just phenomenal. I think that's what you should strive for. That's what we're all about, blessed with different talents to problem solve and make impact in this world. And we can't do that if we don't take the time to have our own personal assessment as well. So it's such a delightful conversation. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, I will see you all. Have a very good one. And please don't forget to sign up. You see all the scroll on our newsletter. Of course, subscribe, and we will catch you next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.